Yeah, one story, one of my favorite times in my mission. It was kind of, so I just kind of finished with, it had a hard companion that had a kind of a hard time with. He didn't like me very much. That's another story. But I kind of just finished up with that, and kind of after the trials come the blessings sometimes. And I got a brand new companion, and we were in one area, it's called Pergamino, and we were actually the zone leaders in Pergamino. And so we got there, and when I first got there, I heard about this one city. It was called Rojas, which means red. It's kind of a weird name for a city, but that was what it was called. And in Rojas, there was a small branch of the church, but there hadn't been missionaries there for about 7 years. The missionaries had left because they hadn't been having much success, and so there's a small branch of about 9 people or so, but they hadn't had any new baptisms in years, and they're kind of struggling. And I heard about it, and I went and asked the stake president and later our mission president about it, and we got permission to go and try and see if Rojas was ready to receive missionaries again. And that was a really cool experience. We'd go down there about once a week. We'd take a bus. It was about a 45-minute bus ride down to Rojas, and we'd go down early in the morning, spend the whole day preaching there. And the members there were so excited to have us because they hadn't had missionaries in years, and they would give us lunch as soon as we'd get to the town. We didn't know our way around because we'd never been to that city before, but there was just a member waiting at the bus station for us. And we got off, and he took us on a tour around the whole town to every investigator or part member family or inactive member he knew, so that we could go teach people. And we just get there, and the members were just helping us the whole time. It was a small 10-person branch, but they were so excited to have missionaries there. And right away, one of the families they took us to was a family, and they hadn't been active for years. There was a mom who had been active but went less active, and a guy who was a couple years older than me, and he was on the point of serving a mission, but then he ended up going less active for a while. And we went and we found them, and we kind of worked with them, and they were excited about it. But then they had a 14-year-old daughter whose name was Karin, and she hadn't really heard much of the gospel because she had just been a little tiny girl when they went, but she'd been blessed as a baby in the church. And we kind of taught the whole family about it, and eventually her older brother, who's the one who's a couple years older than me, he got really excited. He kind of remembered his testimony. He started sharing the gospel with his sister, and she got baptized. He came back to the church, and that was just really great seeing that family. They were having so many problems at the time. They had a brother who had just been put in jail, and the mom was having a lot of health problems. She was going blind. But seeing they were just having so many problems, kind of a dysfunctional family, but as they got the gospel, it was just great to see that excitement come into their lives. And I still keep in contact with them. And like Karin, she's been active for over a year now. She just went to EFI for her first time. She was the only youth in her whole little city, and she was so excited to find out there were other members of the church of her age. And in that same area in Rojas, we also ended up baptizing a guy. He got baptized the week after I left. I was mad I couldn't be there for the baptism, but he's now the branch president, and they've now sent missionaries to that area, and it's reopened. It's doing super well. That branch is, I don't know how, it looks like it's doubled in size from what I know. But it's really cool just to be able to see a place that really most of those people in that town hadn't heard the missionaries. They didn't know what the church was talking to them. So it was just great to see the gospel come to places where it really hadn't been before, or was just a few people knew about it. So at one point to mission, I was in Rosario, so the main city of the mission, and his big city, and I was just training this brand new elder. He just got here as his first Sunday at church, and we hadn't had too much luck. I'd been in that area for a transfer before. We hadn't really baptized anybody. It was a little frustrating, and so then this new companion got here, and I think he was living where he must have been more righteous than me, and he brought all the blessings with him when he came. But so he came. It was his first Sunday in church, and we had one guy. So I had found we were kind of reactivating one family, and they brought one of their friends, about a 40-year-old man, to church. And then normally we didn't get that many people at church. And this Sunday we had about 8 people show up to church. And this guy that had brought his friend had brought to church, at the end he loved the meetings. every lesson he was just crying during the lessons. At the end of the meetings, I just came up and said, "Hey, do you want to get baptized?" And I think about 3 weeks later he got baptized, and he was so happy. And then that same Sunday, so I thought I was doing pretty good. I had just got a man, asked a man to be baptized right after sacrament meeting, and then I come over, and I look around trying to find out where my new companion was. Because he could barely speak Spanish. He didn't really know what to do. And I find him, and there was one man, and we had kind of just we just talked to the guy basically on the street. And he just asked where the church was and said he wanted to come. And he ended up showing up to church that day. And he, after the meeting, he came and found my new companion who barely spoke any Spanish. And he said, "Yo quiero ser bautizado." And my companion understood that he was saying, "I want to be baptized." And we hadn't really taught this guy about baptism or anything, but so my companion was just like, he thought about, how can I say that in Spanish? He's like, "We can do that. Do you want to be baptized on this day?" And he did. So that was just an amazing first Sunday for my companion, having all these different people come and want to be baptized. So it was interesting. We had times like before that on mission where nothing was happening. We were working hard, but just weren't seeing the blessings. And then we tried to have a little patience, and we saw all those blessings open up at once.